Have you ever imagined a world in which your desires, ambitions, and objectives are not just possibilities but rather tangible reality where everything you could want comes true? You are at the proper spot, then. Today we will discuss a secret that will enable you to do precisely that. It is not magic, it is not a trick. It is a philosophy of life, Stoicism. Stoicism emphasizes the need of concentrating. He teaches us how, in ourselves, in our acts, in our responses, in our attitude, we may change our reality and create incredible events. We will investigate 15 Stoic keys in this video that will enable you to achieve exactly that. Each key will be thoroughly discussed along with a quotation from a Stoic philosopher to highlight their relevance. Thus, back off, unwind, and be ready for a trip into the core of Stoicism. Things but the opinions you have of them. This phrase reminds us that our inner peace depends on how we interpret and respond to life events, not the events themselves. Ataraxia is therefore a powerful key to focusing on yourself. By cultivating inner peace, you can free yourself from unnecessary worries and focus on what really matters. Your personal growth and development. Key 2. Love fatty, love destiny. The second Stoic key is amor fati, which translates as loving destiny. This concept invites us to accept and love everything that life brings us, both good and bad. Instead of resisting challenges or lamenting adversities, the Stoics teach us to embrace them as part of our path. Amor fati is the practice of seeing every event in our to understand that every experience, no matter how painful or challenging, has a purpose and can teach us valuable lessons. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "Accept what comes to you woven into the pattern of your destiny, because what might best suit your needs." This quote reminds us that every event in our life, it is exactly what we need at that time to learn, grow, and evolve. By practicing love fati, you can see every challenge as an opportunity to grow and every adversity as a valuable lesson. This perspective will allow you to focus on yourself and your personal development instead of getting stuck in resistance or resentment. Key 3. Proc. Mindfulness. The third Stoic key is proc, which translates to the Stoics. The importance of living in the present and paying attention to our current actions and thoughts. Proc is the practice of being fully present in each moment, paying attention to our actions, thoughts, and emotions without judgment. It is the awareness that we only have control over our actions and reactions in the present, and that our attention should be focused on doing the right thing here and now. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said, "Don't ask for things to happen as you want, but you want things as they happen and you will be happy." This quote reminds us that we must accept reality as it is and focus our attention on our own actions and reactions. By practicing the process, you can learn to live in the present and focus on what you can control, your own actions and reactions. This mindfulness will allow you to focus on, rather than worrying about, what is out of your control. Key 4. Eudaimonia, the good life. The fourth Stoic key is eudaimonia, which translates as the good life or happiness. True happiness, according to the Stoics, comes from leading a life of virtue and purpose rather than from fleeting pleasures or material acquisition. Achieves by living according to nature. What for the Stoics means to live virtuously? It is to understand that our true happiness and satisfaction come from our own actions and character, not from external circumstances. As Seneca said, a famous Stoic philosopher is not the man who has little, but the one who desires more, who is poor. This phrase reminds us that our true wealth and happiness depend on our character and actions, not of our material possessions. Eudaimonia is therefore a powerful key to focus on yourself as you seek the good life through virtue and purpose. You can find lasting and meaningful satisfaction. Key 5. Memento mori. Remember that you are going to die. The fifth Stoic key is the memento mori, which translates as remember that you are going to die. This concept reminds us of the inevitability of death, and invites us to live each day as if it were our last. The memento mori is a practice of reflection on our mortality, not to provoke fear but to inspire action. By remembering that our life is finite, we can appreciate each moment and live with greater purpose and intensity. Marco Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "Think of yourself as if you were already dead. You have lived your life, now take it that stays and lives it correctly." This quote reminds us that every day is a gift and that we must live it in the best possible way. By practicing the memento mori, you can learn to appreciate each moment and live Each day with purpose and gratitude. This perspective will allow you to focus on yourself and your personal development instead of worrying about what you cannot control. Key 6 to self-control. The sixth Stoic key, it is the incate that translates as self-control. The Stoics understood that self-control is fundamental to living a virtuous and fulfilling life. It is the practice of exercising control over our actions, thoughts, and emotions. It is the ability to resist temptations and maintain composure in difficult situations. The Stoics believed that self-control allows us to live according to our values and principles, rather than being swept away by our passions. As Epictetus, a well-known Stoic philosopher, advised labored, external events are guaranteed by the lack of desire rather than by the fullness of the things one has or the richness of joys. This model reminds us that we are part of something bigger and that our actions can have an impact beyond ourselves. By practicing affiliation, you can learn to consider the impact of your actions in others and contributing to the well-being of your community. This perspective will allow you to focus on yourself and your personal development while contributing to the well-being of others. Key 8. Love for humanity. The eighth Stoic key is love for humanity. The Stoics believed in the importance of kindness and generosity towards others. Is the PRA of acting with kindness and generosity towards others without expecting anything in return is to understand that we are all part of the same human community and that we have the responsibility to care for and support others. Seneca, a famous Stoic philosopher, said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." This quote reminds us that we always have the opportunity to act with kindness and generosity no matter the circumstances. By practicing this, you can learn to act with kindness and generosity, which will allow you to focus on yourself and your personal development while contributing to the well-being of others. Key 9. Moderation. The ninth Stoic key is moderation. The Stoics believed in the importance of living a balanced life, and avoiding excesses is the practice of seeking balance in all areas of our life. Is to understand that excesses, either in pleasures or difficulties, can lead us to unhappiness and suffering. Epictetus, a famous Stoic philosopher, said, "Wealth consists not in having large possessions, but in having few needs." This quote reminds us that true wealth and happiness come from living a balanced and moderate life, not from the accumulation of possessions or pleasures. By practicing this, you can learn to seek balance in your life and avoid excesses. This perspective will allow you to focus on yourself and your personal development. Key 10. Differentiate what we can control from what we cannot control. The Stoics believed that the key to living a quiet and fulfilling life is to focus on the things that are under our control, and accepting things that are out of our control is the practice of differentiating between our actions and thoughts that are under our control and external events that are out of our control. Is to understand that we cannot control what happens around us, but we can control how we respond to it. Epictetus, a famous Stoic philosopher, said that it is not things that disturb us, but our remember that our peace and happiness depend on how we interpret and respond to life events, not the events themselves. By practicing it, you can learn to focus on what you can control and to accept what you cannot control. This perspective will allow you to focus on yourself and your personal development. Key 11. Of the evils. The Stoics regularly practiced exercise to visualize the possible challenges or difficulties that they could face in the future. Is the practice of anticipating and mentally preparing for possible challenges or adversities. It is not about being pessimistic, but about being prepared and having a plan of action in case things do not go as we expect. Near a famous Stoic philosopher, D. The wise man always considers that adversity is possible and therefore is prepared to face it. This quote reminds us that true wisdom is not found in hoping for the best, but in being prepared for the worst. By practicing it, you can learn to anticipate and prepare for challenges, which will allow you to remain calm and composure even in the most difficult situations. This perspective will allow you to focus on yourself and your personal development. Key 12. Universal connection. The Stoics believed that we are all part of it. The practice of realizing our relationship to the cosmos and responding appropriately helps us to practice of a greater whole, and that we are inherently related to the universe. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, observed in his meditations, "What is not good for the beehive is not good for the bee." Marcus Aurelius understood that our actions affect the cosmos and that we must therefore take this into account when making choices. It reminds us that we are part of a larger whole and that our actions can have an impact beyond ourselves. By practicing it, you can learn to consider the impact of your actions on the universe and contribute to the well-being of the universal community. This perspective will allow you to focus on yourself and your personal development. Key 13. Arete excellence of character. The 13th Stoic key is the arete that translates as an excellence of character. The Stoics believe that the goal of life is to develop virtuous character and live according to nature. Arete is the practice of cultivating virtues and living according to our values. It is understanding that our true happiness and satisfaction come from our own actions and character, not from external circumstances. Epictetus, a famous Stoic philosopher, said, "Do not seek to have events happen as you want if you don't want events as they happen, and you will have a quiet life." This quote reminds us that our peace and happiness depend on how we interpret and respond to life events, not the events themselves. By practicing arete, you can learn to cultivate virtuous character and live according to your values. This perspective will allow you to focus on yourself and your personal development. Key 14. Duty. The Stoics believed that each of us has a moral duty or responsibility to ourselves and to others. It is the practice of with our duties and responsibilities, not out of obligation or fear of consequences, but because it is the right thing to do, to understand that our actions have an impact on ourselves and others, and that we must act in accordance with our values and principles. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor Roman and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "Do what is in harmony with the nature of a good man." This quote reminds us that our duty is to act in accordance with our nature and live a virtuous life. By practicing it, you can learn to fulfill your duties and responsibilities in a way that is in harmony with your values and principles. This perspective will allow you to focus on yourself and your 15 logos. Universal reason. The 15th and final Stoic key is the logos, which translates as universal reason. The Stoics believed that the universe is governed by an inherent reason or logic, and that we should strive to live in harmony with this reason. The logos is the discipline of using reason and logic to seek truth and wisdom. It is to realize that our judgments and actions should be directed by reason, not by emotions or wants. Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said in his Meditations, "Everything that happens occurs the way universal nature intends it to do." This quotation tells us that we have to work toward comprehending and coexistence with universal reason. Practicing the logos will help you to develop logical thinking and live in line with the universal reason. This point of view will help you to concentrate on your own growth and self. Our path throughout the 15 Stoic principles to focus on yourself comes to a conclusion. Every one of these principles presents us a different angle on how to lead a complete and meaningful life. From ataraxia to the logos, these keys remind us that we have the ability to live in line and regulate our activities and responses. Remember, Stoicism is not only an old philosophy but also a useful manual for daily living because of our beliefs and ideals and helping others to live better. Applying these principles in your life can help you to discover inner peace, live deliberately, and realize your own potential. You are thus ready to start the road of self-discovery and personal development. As the great Stoic famously observed, "You are rather than how things are." Until next time, we hope these keys motivate you to pay attention on yourself and lead a complete and meaningful life.